by Prince family. I'm so excited. Today, I am going to be talking to one of our authors whose book actually released today, July 14th. I've got Miranda Reese here, and she's going to be talking about her new book, Checking You Out. Miranda, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I'm so happy to be here to speak with you today.
I am too. I've been so excited to talk about this book, honestly. There's so many great things about it. But let's first jump in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Checking You Out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Checking You Out is a romance that is going to take you back in time to the 90s. So, it's set in 1998. It centers on Holly Bennett, who is the head librarian. She's very deeply devoted to the Maple Valley Public Library and caring for her teenage sister, Casey. She's working at the library and she meets a technical consultant named Ethan who arrives to help modernize the library, including her beloved card catalog. Um, Holly fiercely protects the analog traditions left behind by her late grandmother, Ellie, who is the head librarian before her. So she initially views him as the enemy. It's a steamy enemies to lovers with some of your favorite tropes, including, one bed, there's a little road trip, workplace romance, black cat, golden retriever. And it's also a story about navigating grief, family secrets, and finding love. And the 90s nostalgia is throughout every page.
Yes, which is probably my most anticipated part of this novel. I'm so excited. Um, Before we jump into that, just curious, where did the inspiration for this story come from for you?
Yeah, so I have always loved writing, but honestly, I haven't always been writing romance. So romance has always been my favorite genre to read. So I started getting the idea about trying my hand at writing romance through my book club that I attend regularly at my local indie bookstore. It's called Mimosas and Meet Cutes. We meet once a month and we chat about different books and I just got the idea. I was like, I'm writing all these short stories. Why don't I try my hand at romance? What do I feel like writing? Um, I was sitting at a local library near us in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. It's a very small library. It's very charming, and I was waiting for my daughter. She was in a Girl Scouts meeting, and I saw they had a card catalog cabinet they repurposed for art supplies, and it was right next to an older kind of computer and their tech center, and that's kind of where the idea was born. But I truly wanted to write a book, a romance that was set in a library setting, because I just love libraries so much. And I was looking on the shelves for something that would bring me back to like some of my favorite 90s rom-coms. Like, Are You, well, While You Were Sleeping, You've Got Mail, the banter, but also like sometimes the sort of cute, like charming cliche moments that you just eat up when you're watching them. So that idea really transformed into Checking You Out from that moment at the library, which was really cool.
Yeah, I love that. And, just kind of going off of this like 90s nostalgia aspect of the book. Um, for those of us who grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, I feel like it's such a nostalgic time and it's such an interesting time to have grown up in. And I love the direction you took with the technology versus analog. And we'll talk a little bit more about that because I feel like that's really prevalent right now, specifically. But going to the 90s, why did you feel like 1998 served as the perfect backdrop for this romantic comedy beyond what you just said about, your favorite rom-coms, which you listed some of my faves as well. But kind of this, exploring that friction between cozy analog with the card catalogs and kind of this dawn of the digital age that was coming around then.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was thinking about the 90s, so I'll start with 1998 sort of has a lot of personal meaning to me as well. I was 8 years old at the time, between 8 and 9, and that's when I became an older sister. So my sister was born in 1998, and I feel like I grew up a lot that year, and that's when I truly found writing. Like I literally remember sitting on the school bus, scribbling in my notebook. Um, And I really found journaling that year. And as I was reflecting on that time period, I was thinking there's so many parallels to me growing up as a millennial, looking at 1998 in terms of how much was going to be changing in the next like 2, 3 years. Similarly to where we are here in 2026 with the emergence of AI and all of the new technology that we have. So I thought it would be really cool to explore how, especially Holly, she's kind of torn between these two different worlds. She doesn't want to let go of her traditions and some of the tangible like analog technology that I love from the 90s, CDs and mixtapes and her card catalog is something physical that she could touch and look through. Where at the same time there was this new opportunity for new technology that also can bring some new accessibility and new forms of entertainment. So I thought that would be really fun and nostalgic to bring back. And as a child, like I actually remember when I remember being in my elementary school library when we still had a card catalog. And I didn't really use it because I was a kid, but I remember there were certain like libraries that were just objectifying. Like I am not going to be using this new digital system. And it's so funny to look back to be able to remember that bridge both worlds. So I really enjoyed exploring that time in this novel, and I hope that everyone who reads it, it brings you back or it gives you a new perspective on that time as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it just reminds me, I just recently read something where they said that millennials had one of the most unique childhoods and they have this really unique perspective because we lived without it and then we lived at the dawn of it and then now, we watched it become so huge and get, thrown into everything and I think that that is also what makes that time period so nostalgic. And so I love that you focus on that. So Holly is the librarian, and she, like you said, she's
Mhm.
fiercely protecting the tradition of a very analog library, specifically with record keeping. But we've got Ethan,
Mhm.
who is embracing all this technological innovation. So while you were writing this, did you see one perspective as right, or was your goal to show that both have value? And kind of how did you tackle that?
Yeah, I love that question, Lauren, because I think as you are writing, if you're someone who likes to, develop characters, you may find that they take on a personality of their own, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite parts of writing. So, I kind of came into this novel. There are certainly many aspects of Holly that are similar to my character, my own personality. And then as I began writing her character, she kind of really took off and became her own person. So we have some things in common, but I also have so many things in common with Ethan, which is so cool. And I think with Holly, I definitely think she's correct that, you know, technology can be a barrier to human connection and can sometimes be a barrier to human creativity, especially if you think about, the role that AI is having currently in creative projects and publishing. And the one thing that is so true about Holly's argument about the card catalog is that active serendipity when you're in a library, and this still can happen, okay? If you're a library wanderer like me, you don't necessarily need to have a card catalog to experience that kind of serendipity of finding a book that you were not looking for at all. But once you found it, it may even change your whole life, right? It could be the book that you needed to read. So that's how she looks at the card catalog as a way for her as a librarian to connect with readers and patrons, and also allow, the people in the library to have an active role in their research and dive into different stories and find something that they maybe weren't expecting to find. And then with Ethan's argument, I do agree with him though, because, throughout the novel, he is explaining to Holly that this new digital catalog can allow for more rapid searches. It may be allowing people to, put books on hold easier, create reading lists, make things more accessible for people. And, even now you think, some people need large print, people need audiobooks, like all of these different ways that make reading more comfortable and enjoyable and accessible for all. So I think both of them have really good points, but I think the main message of this sort of battle of technology is that you need to kind of, appreciate the traditions that you have and stay rooted in them, but also be willing to allow for new changes and be able to grow through it, which is what I think Holly realizes throughout the story. And I think Ethan also realizes how important the role of libraries are in the community through his work in Maple Valley Public Library and also working with Holly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, you kind of take on this really big topic and you show the balance of it. And that, each has its place. And I feel like Holly and Ethan represent kind of those two extremes, and that they're coming together shows that we really do need the balance. And I mean, just beyond all the things you said too, it just makes me think of all the things or jobs, that I've worked where we rely so heavily on that technology. And
Mm,
we all know sometimes technology doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And so there's also
exactly.
value in knowing how to, go back to these analog systems when we need to. Um,
Yeah.
so you've brought up AI a couple of times,
Yes.
and this is just kind of a fun question that I thought of. But if we were to talk to Ethan and Holly today, if they were in our Zoom call right now, how do you think they would feel about AI, and would their opinions be the same or different?
Yeah, so that would be a very spirited debate, I feel. A fascinating, spirited debate. I think Holly would be 100% against it. And
Yeah.
I think that Ethan would be I think he'd be cautious, but very excited about it. Because I think, in the novel too, Ethan is someone who had studied computer science and was interested in creating things with the technology, that was, around at the time. So I think he would be very excited about the possibilities of all of that. But I think if Holly was living right now at her age in 2026, I don't even know if she would want to be on a smartphone. Like I really think she like you said, they're both like on each edge of the argument and and look, there's some days that I don't want to be on a smartphone, okay?
I hear ya.
It's part of the reason like too why I wanted to write this book and why I most of the time my favorite genre is reading historical romance is because there is no technology to be found right, in historical romance. And there's these barriers that come up where like you literally cannot get in touch with somebody because there's no way to reach them. And there are moments in checking you out where someone literally has to go run and find somebody because, it was really the time where there was only pagers around. So
Yeah.
I really think that Holly would look at AI as a way to limit human creativity and connection, whereas Ethan would cautiously embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So we've talked about the very nostalgic setting and backdrop of 1998, but along with that, libraries hold a very special place for a lot of people, and I know for you as well. And when I think of libraries, I get really nostalgic. I think about my elementary school library that had, big pictures of like Clifford the Big Red Dog and the Berenstain Bears. And so I know that that's going to resonate with a lot of our readers. So how did you make Maple Valley Public Library feel like this living, breathing part of the novel?
Yeah, that was just so fun to write. Because you're right, libraries have such a special place in my heart, and even more so now that I have my two daughters, because I kind of, after becoming a mother, I just kind of refound like my love of attending like programs at the library and sharing the books that I loved growing up in the 90s. So to kind of create that nostalgic library setting in Maple Valley Public Library, there's a lot of descriptions about some of the books in the children's section.
Oh,
There's like a reading rainbow section, and I love books that reference pop culture and reference other books. So not only are there, book references from the 90s, there's also some song references and things like that. Describing the setting, I mentioned I had got the idea about, the setting of this book from Emmaus Public Library. So I wrote a lot of this book in that library describing the setting. It is a modernized library, but has still some of the charming setting. There's also different patrons that, characters in the library interact with. There's Miss Frizzle posters on the walls, talking about what it feels like to open a card catalog and search for an item and then search for it in the stacks. Holly getting a call from a patron, excited to put a new book on hold. So those aspects were really rooted in all of my experiences. We're really fortunate to have such amazing libraries in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. So it kind of, there's a little bit of the Parkland Library, Emmaus Library, Allentown Libraries, all of the libraries that we frequent in there with all of the people that really make those environments special. I feel like a library is a space where everyone is welcome, and it's always a space that's felt like home to me. There's no expectations to buy anything or be a certain way. It's literally a space encouraging you to read and learn. It's wonderful, and I'm just so honored to be able to have written about my experiences, and be able to share, about all the librarians and the libraries that have influenced my life over the years.
I love that. So you've mentioned historical romances. I know that that's a genre that you really love, and Holly is also a big fan of historical romances. And specifically, she has dreams of finding this very passionate love herself.
Mhm.
What does her reading life reveal about her hopes, but also maybe some of her blind spots?
Absolutely. I feel like Holly needed to be a historical romance reader too, because it's like the OG romance
Yes.
genre from the time.
Bodice
It was
rippers.
booming in the 90s. I actually have some of my like historical romance
Oh,
books here with me
yeah.
because I just feel like I needed them next to me. They are just gorgeous. And Holly, it's mentioned in the book that, historical romances from the 90s had these like passionate step backs, which is why the book club in the book is called Swooning for Step Back. Because, I mean, like I wish books had these
Oh,
nowadays, right? They're
same.
gorgeous. Um, but yeah, so she loves historical romance because they're so sweeping and dramatic. And you have these male characters that just yearn for the heroines in these books, and she just longs to be loved like that. She has such a rocky history of romance, and she had to grow up really quickly. In the book, you'll learn about how she had to take guardianship of her teenage sister. So she's an eldest daughter that had to go like above and beyond and really kind of put her personal life to the side and really focus on being there for her sister Casey. So she finds these stories to be comforting and exciting, and she also leans so much on her friends who were in the book club. They really get her through that first year of losing her grandmother Ellie, who was like the rock in her life. And I think really where her blind spot forms is that they can be so escapist to get lost in the pages of a historical romance that she kind of filled her life and that void of romantic partnership with books, instead of, trying to still meet real people. And, to be fair, she is in a small town. I mean, Maple Valley is a fictional town, but you can imagine a small, cozy town in Pennsylvania. There may not be a lot of new people to meet, especially in the 90s where you can't just like meet people online, right? So she had really struggled with that. And I think she kind of uses them as a way to shield herself from getting hurt again. She doesn't want to, at the beginning of the book, she doesn't want to meet anyone new. She really doesn't even want to consider dating anyone anymore.
Yeah. Um, so there's also another aspect of this book, which is the discovery of this long hidden family secret, which adds a whole
Mhm.
other layer to this romance story. So, why did you want to weave a mystery into what is otherwise a cozy love story? What kind of purpose does this serve for your readers?
Yeah, absolutely. This element of the story kind of was one of those elements that was unplanned and came through a lot of my creative writing and exercises. Like I do a lot of journaling, different writing point of view exercises while I'm writing to get to know my characters. And one of the things I was reflecting on is that when you lose someone who is really important in your life, after they pass away, you typically learn things about them that you didn't know. And it kind of, for better or for worse, right? And it also helps to shape like who they really were in your mind as a person. Because especially if you have someone that you lose when you knew them as a child, they had a whole adult life, right? Before you or before, while they were with you that you may not have known about. And so I really think that this family secret is a gift to Holly in so many ways. It's a legacy that's left for her to explore. And I think for Holly's character, I think she needed to discover this in order to find closure and to also understand her own future. I think she truly needed that, and I once I fit that into the novel, it felt complete, and I don't think it would have felt complete to me without that discovery in there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I love that. I'm excited for that part as well.
Thank
So
you.
you mentioned some of the tropes that we see in this novel. So we've got workplace, some forced proximity, enemies to lovers. But the one that I'd like to focus on and hear you talk a little bit more about specifically is subverting this grumpy sunshine dynamic, where in most books we see, grumpy is the male and sunshine is the female. Um, but what makes this gender flipped kind of black cat heroine and golden retriever hero so much fun? And why do you think that readers are deeply resonating, especially recently, with this sharp-witted, protective female lead?
Yes, I thank you for asking that because I even find it interesting that we do identify this trope as black cat golden retriever versus Grumpy Sunshine because it's the flip on, the hero and the heroine and their gender roles. It's interesting if you think about it that way. But I find that to be so fun to read. And so I wanted to incorporate that here because I think it really allowed me to create Holly as the strong character that she is.
Mhm.
She's someone who's incredibly resilient, and but she's also very tightly wound, right? And she is somebody who needed a romantic partner like Ethan, who's more of a spur of the moment, flexible kind of guy to actually like pull out of her really fun side and to kind of be let her guards down a little bit. But it also makes for really fun banter. So that was super fun to write. And I think it's just relatable. I don't know. I feel like I'm tightly wound a lot of days too. And you just kind of, as women, we have a lot of responsibilities and we have a lot of things that we need to prioritize in our lives. And I think it's a good reflection on, I know Holly's back in the 90s, but I think it's a good reflection even now of, who are the black cats that we have in our society in 2026. There's many women who are, holding up libraries and holding up families, just like Holly is.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think like you said, as women, we have so many responsibilities all the time. And I love a black cat golden retriever trope so much. And I think it gives women not just permission to be who they are, but to remind them you get to be loved also. You
Yes.
know?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
um, what is your favorite thing about this story?
That is such a hard question. There are so many pieces of this story that I love. I think if I had to pick something, it would be the relationship between Holly and Casey, because I really feel like that sisterhood is the heart of the book in so many ways. And they really just lean on each other and grow so much together. I have the privilege of being an eldest daughter and an older sister myself. And I understand what that pressure can feel like, and to a different degree than Holly, of course, but it's I feel like it really is a privilege to be an older sister, to be able to influence a younger sister's life and be there for them. And I think that comes through in the relationship between Holly and Casey. So that's my favorite thing, I think.
Yeah. Um, what were the three most important things to you while writing this novel in order to tell this story?
I think the first thing was to really honor libraries and the role that they serve in our communities. To be honest, I'm not a librarian myself, right? So I realize I'm not speaking from my true experience, but I hoped to really capture all of the things that librarians do for our communities and what that really feels like to work in a library and serve others. I think second would be creating a romance that feels authentic. It's not perfect. There's moments where they struggle. There's arguments. There's misalignments. It can be messy, and I didn't want, I wanted to be a romance that felt really earned and emotional for the readers. And last was really to capture the nostalgia of the 90s. Like I wanted readers to have a lot of fun with that, to feel like you were approaching the new millennium. Like I feel like that's the best way to kind of describe it. Those would be my three things.
Yeah, I love that. I just because I can't not ask about the 90s nostalgia because I love it. And I also just wrote a book that takes place in the
Yeah,
90s.
I'm so
So
excited to read it.
I'm curious what you did in terms of like any research or anything extra that you added to your life to kind of put yourself in that nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah, so I started out watching a lot of my favorite rom-coms. So that was like that was point A, and just really immersing myself in that and a lot of playlists, but also like music videos. So music videos really, I don't know, they just bring you back. They're so dramatic and like I could just watch them all day. I also had looked through some like old magazines from the 90s, like the People magazines, because of the pop culture and everything.
How fun.
But those were some fun ways that I kind of re-immersed myself into the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that. My Spotify last year aged me based on how much 90s music I was listening to. And I know your book includes such a fun playlist. I've
Oh,
been
thank
able to
you.
post like a little bit of it, but
Yeah.
readers will get to see that you have a whole like mixtape, side A and side B, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's a great playlist. But
Thank
I
you.
love the music videos idea. I did
Yeah.
Daria and
Okay. Yep.
Osbourne's because I
Yep.
was writing about a rock star, which was just kind of funny.
Yep.
The magazines, though, I didn't even think about trying to find old
Yeah.
magazines. That's a good one.
Yeah, I love magazines too. Oh gosh, I wish we had more magazines around. I love magazines. And, so Holly is somebody who, when you read the book, like she loves lipstick too. So I had to do some research on like what were some of the popular colors, from like Revlon and all this stuff. So that was fun. And like fashion trends and, different things like that were really cool to incorporate. And Evelyn, who is her best friend in the library, she's like sort of a fashionista. So she like I got some inspiration from her and her voluminous hair from some of the magazines. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I know I used to love like 17
Yes.
and Us Weekly,
Cosmo, like
Cosmo. Oh, all
yeah.
the good stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
love it.
Love it. Yeah.
Um, So what do you want your readers to take away from this novel?
I mean, I really want them to have fun with it. I hope it's like a fun journey down memory lane for some people back to the 90s. It's like a cozy hug in many ways. But I really hope if there's a message from this novel, I think it would be that you don't have to entirely fear change or blindly accept it.
Hmm.
I think it's okay to know that you can fight for what you believe in while also leaving some room to grow for new opinions. And so even when you feel like, you feel like your path is written out and there's nothing else you can do, just be willing to have, a new perspective to start a new chapter, right? And I think that would probably be the main message of the book.
Yeah, I love that. Um, well, what can readers expect next from you? Are you working on anything? Do you have anything coming up? I ask like I
Yes.
don't know.
Yes. Yes. So many things. So many things. So first off, I have a Christmas novel, the holiday novel with five prints that we're starting the editing process. And it takes place in a yarn store, like a crafty store. So I'm so excited about that. Can't wait. And that's in a collaboration with other authors, including you, Lauren, for the Everpine Valley series. So over the moon excited about that. I'm also part of a historical romance group called Hearts Through History, which is through Romance Writers of America. And so we're working collaboratively on our anthology. Excuse me, on our anthology. And so I'm writing a sapphic historical romance that's medieval, and it's a woman knight, and I'm so excited about it. It's an Oath of Frost and Firelight. So that will be coming out in the fall as well. Yeah.
That is so exciting. I actually didn't know about that one, so I'm very excited for that.
Yes, I am so excited for that anthology. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I always like to ask, where can our readers find you and connect with you online and kind of keep up with what you've got coming up next?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I'd love to hear from you. Like, share with me your favorite 90s rom-com. I love book recommendations. And if you're in the Lehigh Valley area, you could probably find me in any of the libraries around here, either reading or writing or chasing my kids around. But yeah, I'll continue to share about, my upcoming projects. I'm always working on something, and I just can't wait to, connect with readers about this book. So,
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Miranda, for chatting with me. Everybody go check out Checking You Out. It's out now. I'm so excited. From Five Prince Publishing. So make sure you find that wherever you get your books. And make sure, again, to connect with Miranda Reese. It's Miranda Reese author, correct? On
yep. And
platforms.
you can
Wonderful.
also visit my website, MissMirandaReeseAuthor.com. Yep.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks again, Miranda. It was so great chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Take care.
You too.